Hello there! My name is Nathan Vanette with the Cottage Farmstead. I am solo again today as Rebecca is again over at work, but I thought I would take you along on the next step in our journey. Like I mentioned in our past video, we are going to be looking at utilities today. How to reach out to people, who to reach out to, and where to put them. I know that many of you are also planning your homesteads, so I thought I'd take you along with to show you what we're planning on doing to see if it might inspire or help you along your journey. One of the not so glamorous parts of homesteading is figuring out utilities. So one of the ones that we have been working on getting set up is our septic system. Since we are out in the country, we do not have access to any of the public sewer systems, so there's another procedure that needs to occur. It's not as easy as just hooking up to a pipe and you're good to go, but you have to be intentional with looking at different components that you might need to work towards your homesteading goals. For us, this was reaching out to DHEC to figure out, okay, can we actually put a septic system in our area? Part of this is done through what's called a perk test. Essentially, a perk test is just testing the permeability and the perking ability of the soil. So we had to dig 3 pits, which you can actually see some of the sites back here behind me. And then someone from DHEC came out, looked at the soil layers just to make sure that, okay, this particular location has the ability to drain away fluid, which is a goal of a drain field, as needed for our house. The specs of this system will depend upon like the size of your house. How many bedrooms you have is usually the particular dynamic that they go off of. So we're planning on doing a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. And so that requires in our area about 300 feet of drain line. So part of it is figuring out, okay, where can you put that? Thankfully, we have a lot of open land, as you can see behind me. So it wasn't as much of an issue trying to figure out where might that fit. That's a large area that needs to be graded, dug up, and put down with line. Thankfully, we passed our DHEC inspection, so we're ready to get going with the next stage, which is putting in the septic tank and the septic system. Another important component for any type of building is electricity. Where are you going to get it from? Are you going to try to be self-sustainable? And how far are you from public utilities? Well, as you can see, this is right here, about where our home site is going to be. There are no power lines around us. We love this because it doesn't obstruct any of the view. However, for hooking up to public utilities, it adds up in price and it makes it slightly inconvenient to get there. So I'll take you on a walk over here to show you where our electric hookup, we're planning on putting that, and then how we're going to approach the system. So in our area, we have an electric co-op that we're very excited to be able to hook up to, as they can oftentimes offer unique services that larger corporations might not be able to. So in our instance, they offer and actually encourage people to, for instance, get solar. So they have unique rebate programs and are happy to work with us as we progress towards that type of self-sustainability. So right here, this is going to be roughly the location of our greenhouse. And you can't see it over there, but at the edge of the tree line, there's a power line. And that is actually at the edge of our neighbor's property. Unfortunately, the power line does not cross our property in our field, which has a logistics challenge because in order to get power to our house site then, which is up by the car, we have to go across our neighbor's property. So a couple of things need to happen. We needed to reach out to our neighbor to see if we could get the rights to put either a power line over front of the property to get access onto our property, or another option is actually boring a hole or digging a trench. Thankfully, our neighbor was very amicable and was happy to work with us. So we're planning on trenching that line from over there up to our home site. And rather than going under his property above ground and then back to the home site, we're going to do it all underground. This definitely comes at a cost because above ground wires are generally, at least in our area, they don't cost anything. So that would not be an additional cost for us. Unfortunately, it's $5 per linear foot to bury it, so it is a cost that we end up having to shoulder. Having said that, it means we don't have any power poles that we had to worry about. There's no overhead power lines, and it gives us full accessibility of all of that land. For us, whether we hook up to the line that's on that side of the property, which is Duke Energy, or on this side of the property, which we're planning on doing, the electric co-op, it's about 600 feet in either direction. So we'll have 600 feet of underground line, but what we're looking at also doing, especially with the location of the greenhouse, which we're hoping will be right about here, is having a couple of junction boxes. This is another component that it can be challenging to try to figure out ahead of time, but if you can do so when they're running the wire, it is a whole lot cheaper and easier to put in a junction box ahead of time versus later down the road wanting them to put a splice in the wire. Because what ends up happening is with a junction box, you basically have a box in the ground, they run the wire and run a loop, so there's extra wire. That enables them to cut that wire, put in that splice or another transformer, so that we can pull electricity from there rather than having to run it all the way from the house site. So it's a little bit more expense up front, but it's that type of just thinking through the process that can make your homestead so much easier. So check out your electrical provider and see what options they might be able to offer, and oftentimes they offer free consultation as well. Another important utility is water. Where are you getting water? Are you planning on drilling a well? Do you have a spring on your property? Or do you have to tap into the public water system? There are lots of options available, and a lot of this might depend on your unique geographic location. For us here, we are hoping to be able to put in a well. We actually did some water dowsing, which you can actually look at the link below. We'll link it to this video here, just so that you can learn a little bit more about that technique of trying to find a potential well location. So with running a well, we're hoping to be a little bit more independent, especially if we go solar, because then all of a sudden, we don't have to rely on anyone for our water source. And well water is also much easier for your gardens, for your animals. It's healthier for us if you can get it. It does come at a cost, but we've reached out to a couple of potential contractors, and it looks like actually it'll be about the same cost as putting in a city line. The reason is, you can't really see it here, but there is a significant drop to the land in that direction where we could potentially hook up. And it's about 600 feet, well actually probably a little bit further, to the water line in that direction. So in either case, we would have to run a long line, and usually the longer you run, the wider the diameter of your pipe and the line tap into this public water service. The downside with that is that all costs money, and a good bit of it too. The larger your tap, the more money it costs. So we're thinking that well would service us well. The spot that we found is right around here, which we're really looking forward to if that ends up working, as it would be in between our house site behind me and then my in-laws' house site, which would be over in this direction. And the barn would be behind me, so it'd be well centralized just in terms of easy accessibility. So water, if you're doing concrete work, it's nice to have access to that. Since we have an old well down the hill, we don't necessarily have to worry about drilling the well right away. So we're looking forward to being able to set that cost off a little bit, especially since we're hoping to cash build part of this structure. So this is one of the hard things with homesteading. You have so much money going out and very little coming in at the moment. And if you are cash building, the more you can offset or be mindful of what you can do along those lines, the better it is. That water, we are planning on getting tested, which will definitely take you along that journey, just to see what is it good for. Can we use it on the gardens? Is it good for the animals? Or is it potable or drinkable? We're not planning on using it for drinking water, but if it is usable for the animals, that'll definitely help save a lot of time and effort with getting a water line to the animals, especially when they're on the bottom side of the pasture there versus the top side here, because we'd be able to have two unique water sources, so we wouldn't have to run across the property a line that's over 1,000 feet. That'd be a lot of water line. So just check out your natural resources, what you might have in your area, and a couple of organizations you can reach out to. DHEC might have some information pertaining to what's available in your area. Reach out to the NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services. They could have local history pertaining to other farms or homesteads that have tried drilling wells. Just reach out to your different organizations like that it might give you an idea of how deep do you have to go if you're looking at a well, or what is the quality of the water with the municipal water. Well, thank you for joining me today on this beautiful day. Well, make sure to subscribe below. We have a lot of fresh content coming up, especially as we progress towards the house build, and we look forward to taking you along on this journey. Have a good day.